So basically, with the question, is it good to train like your favorite athlete? Short answer is that you would say is no.
I would say no. I would say no. It's good to take idea, but it's not good to copy somebody else training just because they are the best.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, because you might not be ready for that, right? You might not be in the same condition, same shape like they are, and you might don't need it.
Yeah,
Yeah.
like something that I realized when I was doing my first when I was like really getting into bodybuilding just a few years ago. Like I've been already training for over 10 years,
Mm-hmm.
but I realized with the different bodybuilders, you're saying it's not necessary to train like your pro athlete or your favorite pro athlete, and I think part of it too is that, as you said before, everyone's bodies are unique.
Yeah.
Like everyone's body is unique, right? And so what might work for one person, right, for one bodybuilder, one famous bodybuilder, probably won't work. Well, doesn't work for others, right?
Yeah,
And
absolutely.
so, like even if you do want to train like a pro athlete, it's not necessarily going to get you the same results,
Oh, absolutely not.
right?
Yeah.
Because of all the different factors that go into.
Oh, for sure. And the thing is like it also we need to understand that like the training of athletes is not static.
Mm-hmm.
They change the way they train all the time. Depends on off season, on season. Depends on their condition, injury. Depends on the weaknesses they want to cover, right? So they change all the time. And what you see most of the time is just very small piece of their 10-year long training history, right? And you might get the great result if you are lucky enough or you understand it enough to pick the right spot from their training, right? But it's in 10 years of training, so there's a chance that you pick a wrong spot, right? Maybe that's the program where they trying to recover from injury, so the volume is very low. You're probably not gonna take away anyway from it, right? Maybe that's the training when they're trying to become a peak athlete in the world, right? Maybe you cannot get up with that, right? So that is something we need to really see the purpose of why we do that and how we do it.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, like I've seen this in not just in fitness, but I kind of I guess in general in life, like especially with advice, like in any kind of discipline, whether it's fitness related or not, is that you always have to look at like the sort of the sequence in a person's development where a piece of advice applies. I don't know, this is my kind of convoluted way of this is just what you said, what I thought of, but yeah, I think it's important to realize that you have to build up to a certain. I think like last time you were talking about pain tolerance. You have to be able to build up to a certain level of like stamina or tolerance, like with your 1 rep max. Like, I forget exactly what we were talking about there, but just being able to, to build that up.
Yeah, like you always have your own position where you are right now, and it might not be the same with whatever you are looking at, right? People are a different position, and sometimes it's just something is just not for you at that time. You might want to do something else before you get in there. Of course, it's always very very good if you have like a very specific idea of how you want to train, right?
Yeah.
But it's important also to make sure that you are prepared enough to be in there and you really understand like why you do that.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, so that's a very good point. Yeah.
So, aside from the points that you just brought up about how pro athletes train and why that's different from how the general population might want to train for their goals, why would someone want to train like an athlete?
Very good question. I would say like a lot of people don't really want to train like an athlete. They really want to train like the best athlete. Like
The best athlete.
yeah, like Michael Jordan, like Mike Tyson, like Mark Grigor, like all the people that you see that like already the best in what they are doing, right? That because they love those people, right? They idolize those athletes, and it's for a valid reason, right? And then turn out from that they believe that like, oh, if I do what he's doing or he did before, there's a chance that I'm gonna be closer to his state and his condition, right? So I don't think people really want to train like an athlete, but it's more like people really want to train like a top pro athlete, more like that. Because I tried before, like a few years ago when I started, I just check like all what the pro does, and then I look up it and I try it out. Man, it's difficult because it's become your main job, right? All the training need to make sense together. It's not just about you go into the gym and you hit the weight. It's not just like that. It's also about like recovery, about diet, about sleeping, stress management, right? All the things like that. And then simply if we simply just copy the training routine in the gym, we don't stand a chance, right? So I think it's important to understand that like when you train your body, the most important factor that can give you the result will be like the longevity.
Longevity.
Yeah, how long can you last in that state allow you to be stronger, right? Last week I read about the story. I think it was in World War II or something like that, where U.S. trying to find a way to reinforce the fly jet, and then they try to find the spot to reinforce it, and then all they look at is basically some spot that like all the jet made it back to the base, and then wherever they get a lot of heat. And turns out that like they didn't even reinforce that, but they reinforced somewhere else because of like survival bias.
Yeah.
Right. So like when you look at all the pro athletes, they are the jet that already made back to the base.
Right.
Right. And then you'll be like, oh, so he has all the injury here and there. Let me just protect that. But they didn't really think that like, oh, he made it to the top with that injury, with that problem. So probably it's not that important for now, right? Probably somewhere will be more vital for you to actually tackle it before you can get to that part.
I see.
Right? And then at that point, people only focus on let me improve what he didn't improve or what he's weak at, right? Meanwhile, they actually should do something that like they should look at something that allow them to be on that level first. And most of the time, it's a different thing, completely different thing. Because the pro athlete, they already addressed that, right? No way they can get to that top level if they didn't address that before. But that you don't see because it never showed, right? And most of the time it's pretty repetitive and boring process because you do the same thing over and over again.
There's this quote that I heard recently that's just exactly what you said. It's people want what you have, but they don't want how you got it.
Yeah. Absolutely.
And I think that goes back to what you were just saying now too about how part of the reason why you don't want to train like a pro athlete is because you haven't taken those steps to get to that point where you can actually train like a pro athlete. And it's not even about whether or not you could do it, but like longevity too. Can you actually continue doing that kind of level of workout for a long period of time given where you are right now and
Absolutely.
the kind of endurance you have, right? And
yeah, because like it's not your main job as well, right?
Yeah.
So there will be many things that you have to worry about as well. You can't just ditch your job and say like, okay, I'm gonna train 8 hours per day and then I'm gonna go home, eat and sleep and then repeat it, right? Because you don't actually compete and you don't get anything out of it, and it's tough. And I train at low level and I compete at low level already, and I know it's tough because like everything you're gonna have to spend for it. You don't get sponsored for it, right?
Yeah.
So that means like you basically become like jobless. All you will do is just basically train and eat. All of them gonna be like very expensive for you, right? And also gonna might get very bored for you too. You know, like a lot of people, they train like 1 hour per day, twice a week, and they think like, oh yeah, if I do this and if I put all the fancy exercises that athletes do, I'm gonna be as good as athlete. But they don't really see that like they do 1 to 2 hour fancy exercise, but on top of that they already did like 8 hour boring exercise, very basic exercise to get to the point, right?
Right.
Yeah, it's something behind the scenes is always ugly.
Right. Well, that's why they're pro athletes, right? Like they're actually, like you said, it's their job. They're professionals, and like the same amount of time that you would put into doing a good job, like whatever job career that you have, they're probably going to be putting in just as much, right?
Absolutely.
Yeah. That's that is worth thinking about, especially because I remember being a young kid and like really wanted to like having dreams of being a pro athlete or something like that, but you never really think about like all the practice that goes into that and all the boring stuff, right, and then all the other lifestyle factors too. Okay, so you said that for the most part it's not good to train like your favorite athlete or like a pro athlete. So if that's not good, or let's say it's not that beneficial for the general population, what can people take away from how athletes train?
Good question. I still think there's a lot of quality that you can learn from a pro athlete, right? So first thing first is that they have a very clear plan on what they do. Right, you should too, right? So that's what I encourage a lot of my clients to actually check it out, because like once you actually check out the program made by an athlete or made for an athlete, right, is very very detailed about literally every very small variables that can happen in the training, right? Very very detailed, and it's planned out already. So the planning out and keep the training predictable is one thing that you can really really learn from a professional athlete, right? And stick to the plan, right? And the second thing will be training hard, right? When you do something, you want to put your effort into it, right? And athlete will be the one that you can see the most with it, right? They do a lot of hard thing, and it's just not about only training, but it's also about everything, right? When you want to do something better, do it to your best. Otherwise, just don't do it. Why waste your time, right? And then also the flexibility in the training too. We talk about their condition, it can change drastically overnight, right? Today they still compete, they get injured in the competition, and then that's it, right? They have to change the plan of training. They have to change the plan of competing, right? And it can if it can happen to the pro athlete, for sure it can happen to anybody else too, right? So it's good to understand that there's nothing wrong about having some setback, having some injury in your training. The only thing you can do at that point is basically how you take it and how you move on from that, right? And athlete also like the best people who can teach you that, because they deal with that every day, right? And then also we can learn about, like, if you are at a little bit higher level and you start to understand what they actually are doing and why they do that, you can take their training as a template and then modify it so it fit into your training, right? I do that all the time, not only with me but with my client, because they are so smart in that. It's just not because they work hard, but they are so smart. So all the template, there will be some valid point there, and for sure if you know what it is, when you look at it and spend some time to analyze it, for sure you're gonna see a very specific pattern and the idea behind the program, and you can apply it to your training as well. Yeah, it doesn't really need to be about just about like intensity, frequency or volume. It can be like exercise selection, It can be setup, it can be programming, right? So many things in there that you can learn from them, because most of the time it makes sense. But at the end of the day, you really need to understand that like there's a part that they already addressed before, right? Same with like back to the survival bias. There's a part that they already addressed before, allow them to do so. So at that point, you really need to give it a try, not too much, too early, too quickly at the same time, right? So you make sure that like you really ease yourself into that, and then be flexible with your training, because some shit may happen, right? And then adapt to it and become a better version of yourself, right? There's nothing wrong with training like an athlete. It's just like you might not be ready to train like the top athlete. Train like your athlete first, right? Like your version of athlete.
Yeah.
Right. Stay disciplined. Make sure that you recover well. Make sure that you adhere to the plan. Stick to the plan, and make sure that you are being honest with yourself, right? About like the progression, about the feeling, about everything else. Put your ego aside, and just stick to it.
That's exactly what I was thinking, is ego lifting, because I know.
Oh yeah.
I mean, I think that's actually the best example of this in the gym, right? Is like, I remember I had one client who was he's younger, and he wanted to lift because he saw Arnold lifting like curling 50s or whatever.
Wow.
And he's so like that was his goal, right? He wanted to like be curling like 50s. And I caught him in the gym one time, like just doing really horrible form just to be able to try to do the curl, and it's just like it's like you're saying, like you can't expect to lift that weight just like overnight. You have to like work your way up there, and that's what a lot of people don't see. But in terms of modeling training after what pro athletes do, you're talking about the templates that a lot of these pro athletes have and how they do their programming. Are there any examples of athletes that you have that you've taken